Hi folks, Friar John here again. Just welcoming you back to another inside look into the Friar's Boon. So in our last discussion we talked a little bit about industry trends and the development of content within massively multiplayer online games. In that discussion we talked a little bit about the challenges that both developers and players have in the creation and consumption of content. So we ended that discussion with a blanket statement that players are the best form of content. So in this discussion I'd like to switch gears, or more jump into that idea that players are the best form of content. Now, Camelot Unchained is scheduled for release in a little under 2 years. So there's a lot of time in between now and when the game is set to be released. So what can you do now as a player to create content for the game? That is what we will be talking about in this video. The first thing, the absolutely most critical thing that you can do now to create content for the game is to thoroughly read and understand the foundational principles. Nobody likes going to a rugby match expecting figure skating. The rules of figure skating don't necessarily apply to rugby. You don't want to be that person that goes to a rugby game dressed in figure skates and a tutu. In that sense, reading and understanding the foundational principles is a good start to make sure that you're not that person that shows up in figure skates. Beyond thoroughly understanding the foundational principles, another way to actively create content for the game is to participate in the forums. Now, participating and massively spewing comments is a little different. Being positive and constructive, generating ideas that are based on the foundational principles, offering constructive criticisms and testing crazy ideas are all things to ensure that we can build a quality game in the future. It's also important to bring the discussion elsewhere outside of the forums. Other gaming industry websites, social media profiles, things like Reddit and Facebook and Twitter are all important places to participate in the discussion about Camelot Unchained. Studies have shown that people going into a restaurant that's empty eat food there and think that it tastes worse than going into a restaurant where it's more crowded. The same type of principle applies for building a community around a video game. Nobody likes going into a community that's empty. They just think it's off and it's bad. Fortunately, Camelot Unchained is not an empty community. It's a thriving, engaged, and active community 2 years before the game is scheduled to be released. The fact that the community is very active and very well knit and close together 2 years before a game is set to be released should be very encouraging and refreshing to those that are worn out and within the gaming industry. So what can you do when you bring people to this community? Well, pointing them to the foundational principles is a good start, and you can also point them to things like City State Entertainment's Twitch feed or the Becoming stories, or the information that's on Camelot Unchained's website regarding all of the classes and races and that type of information that is publicly available for the game. Outside of the community that's propagated by City State Entertainment, there is also a very thriving community of fan sites and third-party sites that will provide a wealth of information about this game. There are blogs and podcasts and even video discussions like this that can help people develop and appreciate their understanding for the game. Another thing to understand about creating a community or creating content for a game at this point in development is that it is very important to develop relationships with other people. Now, these relationships could be on an individual level. They could be in a guild or a coalition of players deciding on a particular realm. But it is also a very good opportunity to form discussions with members of City State Entertainment. Mark Jacobs and his team is very active and very participative in the community as a whole. They're on the forums, they're on the cesspools of gaming industry comment sections. They go out of their way to engage and bring people to this community. Another thing to understand about this community is that no matter how active or passionate that you are, your excitement and passion for this game will not likely exceed that of Mark Jacobs. Not only has Mark risked some of his personal assets and reputations on this game, but he has gone out of his way to communicate with the player base. Communicating with Mark and communicating with other people that are interested in this game and communicating with people that should be interested in this game are all ways that you can create content for the game today. Another thing that's important to understand is that pie is better than cake. If the current actions of City State Entertainment and the community that's following them are any indication of the quality of game that is going to come 2 years from now and beyond, then you need to be excited, because great things are in store. For the Friar's Boon, this is Friar John saying good day, good night, and thank you for joining in.